The user interface, or UI, is a piece of hardware that lets a person interact with your product. Today, we are going over how Roblox uses this UI and the features of them. So, first up, the most important part of the UI is the screen GUI in Roblox. So if we go over to our Explorer window, click the plus button on Start the GUI. GUI means Graphical User Interface, and the Graphical User Interface is an advanced type of interface that we use and see every day. It lets us easily order stuff around and move stuff as freely as we want. So we're going to go into the starter GUI and click this add. Now yours might look different than mine, but it comes up with this. Today we are going to be looking at this whole GUI section. All of this. So now let's start off one at a time. The billboard GUI. It's GUI that allows to be in a 3D object. So let me make a part and add that to the part. So here is my part, and now I am going to add the billboard GUI to it. So when adding the billboard GUI, you see this little rectangle appear. Now the properties for the billboard GUI. So we will start off at the top. These absolute position, absolute rotation, absolute size, you cannot change at all. Roblox would change this according to how they are, and these are read-only values, meaning that you can read them, but you can't change them. Active is can it fire events? Can it fire events and pass it to another thing? So can you make a script that uses it and runs it? Underneath is you've got to set that via script. I don't know what that means, so we're not going to do that. Always on top is, will it be on the top? What layer would it be? So if this is ticked, you will always see this first. Enabled, if it's enabled or not, that should be self-explanatory. Extends offset world space and extends offset are effective free defined instance that will offset the GUI from what it's rendering from. Light influence, how much light it gives out. Max distance, as this is a billboard GUI, this is how far away you can see it. It's a very big number, but I'm just going to set it to 20. Name billboard GUI, parent, part, player to hide from is, let's say you don't want certain players to see it. You can put in their name or value there. Reset on spawn, so when you spawn in, we reset the part. So if you had a text change, does it reset that? Size, the size of it. The size is split up into X and Y. All of them have a scale and an offset. So if the scale is how big it is, this would change. So if you set, so the scale is a value from 0 to 1. So if you set it to like 0.1, on everybody's screen, no matter how big it is, it will always be 0.1 of that screen. Offset is offset that depends. No, normally people would do scale, but for this Billboard GUI we're not. Then you've got size offset, which is vector 2, defined in studs file, offset it from the grid. You've got the studs offset, so how far away it will be, or where it is. You've got the studs offset world space, like you had the extensor, and the set index behavior, does it clip or not. Then you've got behavior and localization, but no, I'm guessing most people leave them as false. So the next thing I'm going to do is in this Billboard GUI, I'm going to add the next element. This element is going to be a text label. This text label, as you can see, will be on there. So if I go back into my properties, I can now configure the text label. I'm going to keep the anchor point where it is. I'm going to set the background transparency to 1. And if I scroll down a bit, I'm going to set the size to 1,0,0, which means this would take up the whole space. And then if I scroll down even further, I'm going to set the text to, let's set this to owner. And color will be a nice red color, a nice red color. Text scale is going to be true. I'll go more about text box labels later. Text scale is going to be true, and there we go. So now we've got this thing right here. So if I play the game, we should see that this in action. So now that we are in, if we just look around, see, we can't see it, but as soon as we get closer, we see it in bright red text. Well, it's said clipping for me, but that's because of the transparency of the block. Now what you might want to do is change the size to make it bigger and so you can see it further away. But that's the Billboard GUI. No matter what angle you're looking at it, as long as you're in the distance, it will always show it. If we look in the Explorer here, it does the same effect. See, if we go away, we can't see it. So the next thing we are going to look at in this video is the frames. But first, we are going to look at the screen GUI. This goes in. Goes into Starter GUI. Starter GUI is everything you see when you reset your character, or you respawn, or you just join the game. So in our properties, we've got the same absolute position and things. Display order is what order would display on the screen. So is the lower the number, the closer to the back or front it is. I don't know because I haven't played with it. Enabled is the same as the one for the Billboard GUI. Ignore GUI end set. I don't know what that is, sorry. If you go to develop.roblox.com, you can search that up. Name and parent, these are default to screen GUI, and parent is wherever it is. They're always going to be the same. Reset and spawn, that is, as I said earlier, does it change? Set index, as I said earlier, and behavior, as I said earlier. Now so if the properties are mainly the same and there's not much difference, I'm not going to go through them again. So now in our screen GUI, we are going to add our frame. So as you can see, there's a frame and a scrolling frame. We are going to do both of them. So I'll just add the frame. So now that we've got all of these, the frame property. So if you look at its properties, you've got active. So can it fire mouse event? So if you click or hover over it, can it fire event? You've got the anchor position. So if I change this to 0.5, 0.5, you can see that in the top corner right here, you've got this dot. This is the anchor position. It will always go on there. So now you've got the background color. I'm going to set this to a blue color. Background transparency, I'm going to leave is how transparent it is. Border color is the size on the outside. Normally the way to see this is by increasing the border size pixels, and the border mode is the border mode. Layout order is the same as before. Name parent same. Position is the position on the screen. It is in the X and Y. So when you set this to 0.5, 0.5, I'm gonna say, well, yeah, there's a lot of zeros. It'll do, if we just click this button, it'll do your X and Y, your scale, and your offset. Offset scale means it will be in that position on every device, no matter what the device is. And offset is how far offset it will be from that position. Normally I recommend using scale and not offset if you want it to get the same. Rotation is how much degrees this rotates. So if I change this to 45, as you can see, it's slanted by 45 degrees. This could be cool. This could be useful for creating stuff. Selectable is wherever you can select it in game. Size is the same as the position, but so I'm going to set this to 0.25, 0.25, 0. So it's a square, or depends on your screen size. For size constant is the directions that an object can be resized in. So if it's relative xy, it means it can be resized in both. If it's a relative y, it can only be resized in one. Style is custom. And now if we scroll down a bit, we get the visible and the set index and the behavior. Behavior localization, I'm going to miss out for this video. Visible is wherever it's visible on the screen. So, as you can see, it's visible. Now it's not visible. If it's got something inside of it, it will make that not visible as well. So let's make this visible. Now, let's go on to the scrolling frame I put inside of it. So, scrolling frame is a frame that scrolls. So, we've got the normal data, which is exactly the same, but just different things changed. So what I'm going to do is set the anchor point to the middle, set the position, to the middle and set the size. Now be careful, this isn't the size of the screen. This is the size inside the box. So if I do 1,0,1,0 for max size, it won't fill the whole entire screen up. Instead, it will only fill that box up. So I'm going to set it to 0.5 and 0.5. So it takes up this middle bit of it, so it looks like it's got a border around it. Then you've got the same size constraint, the behavior, all of that stuff. And then you get down to the scrolling. So the scrolling is what the images for the stuff, the canvas position, where the scroll bar is, the transparency, thickness. You can play around with that if you want. I am not going to play around with that. Normally I would leave it the same as it's just easier. So now let's go on to the next things. We've talked about frames, those 2 frames, and the screen GUI. So now let's go on to the next thing. So back in our list, we've got image button, image label, and text button and text label. We also have more UIs up here, but half of these, if it says UI grid layout or list layout, it basically does what it says. I'm not going to cover them because this is a basic / advanced tutorial. I'm also not going to cover the video frame or the viewpoint frame, but I will cover all of these. So now I'm going to add an image button, image label, text button, and text label. I'll also add the text box into that as well. Okay, so now that I've added all of them, let's go over all of them. I have also added a frame, but this is for later purpose. Okay, so I've just set that up for later. That frame that I used. So now let's go on to the image button and the image label. Now, as these are images, they are going to require an image. Images on Roblox are occasionally called decals. So we go to properties of the button. We've got the same things up here, same things there, but if we scroll down, we see this new thing called image. Now in here, what you're going to have to do is type in image. So I'm going to type in the image ID. So once you type in the image ID, it will change, and as you can see, it's a picture of our factory. So now for other properties. You've got the image color, the color of the image, if it's because some images are PNGs. Image offset and size, the transparency of the image, if it is loaded, I think this is normally disabled. The scale type, the slice scale, and the hover image, what do you get when you hover over it? So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to copy it and paste it. So now that when I hover over it, well, it should change, but I'm not sure. I just leave half ID blank. So That's how the image part of it. So with the image button, well, no, that was the image button, but with the image label, if I just move this over here and place in the same, it's going to be the same image but the label. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what the difference between a label and a button is. A label you can't click, but a button you can click. So now I'm going to go and tell you and show you the text button and text label. They're the same thing, but they can hold text, as you can see. So you've got the font, the line height, the distance between lines, how rich the text is, and what type the text is. Oh no, then you've got the text, so let's change this to update, let's change this to, let's say, kill me. So what this would do is when you click it, it would kill you. Text color is text color, text scale is basically text size, but Roblox does it automatically. Because then with the text size, you don't have to worry about it. Text stroke color. Color free is just RGB, and RGB is red, blue, green. I normally leave the rest of these like this. Text transparency for transparency of it, for alignment, and so on. Now I'm just going to move its position down a bit. And turn out of the frame. So with a text label, it's exactly the same as font you can have text in. So now with a text label, if you double click in it, you can actually type in it. So let's say we say die here hour. Now, it won't be sized or anything, you've got to still do that manually, but you can type in with any text thing. A quick script for it to kill us. So in our frame, we're going to add a useful local script, as this is in the starter GUI. The starter GUI automatically gets applied to the player, so we need a local script ready to run on the client. Then what we want to do is get rid of this first line. We want local tb for text button equals script.parent.text button. This is declaring the text button. Now we want local player for player equals game.players the local player. This would get your character, your player, and it's easier than doing script.parent. Now we want to do tb.mouse. Now there are many mouse options. So you've got mouse button on click, mouse button on down, mouse button on up. Mouse button on is left button. So when you click it's up down. When down is when you hold it down, and up is when you've got it up. You've also got the same for right. You've got mouse enter, so has it entered it. You've got the mouse leave, so when it leaves, the mouse moved, so if it's moved in it, which could be a really cool thing for like a snake game or something. You've got the mouse wheel. This is your scroll wheel, so if you move it forward or backwards. I'm going to do mouse button on click, as I wanted a button which you click to kill yourself. Now we need to connect this. It lets us make a function in this cool. Now as we're doing this in this cool, we do not need a function name. We can just pass this. Now what we need to do is player dot character dot health equals 0. This would set the player's health to 0 and kill them. So let's just play the game. And as you can see, in our game we've got this kill me button, and if we click it, well, it doesn't kill us because I've done something wrong. Oh yeah, I forgot, you need the dot human, H-U humanoid, and then you can do dot health, and you can set this to 0, and it kills you. So now I'm going to stop the game and edit the script. So now if I just go into the script, well, let's set this to dot humanoid dot. Now we've got the functioning kill button. You could also do this the same with the image button, and if you watched a previous video of mine, you would learn how to do a teleport script. So now if we play the game, it should load in. And once we've loaded in, if we click the kill me button, we die. Because you just clicked it and it says kill me, so what else do you expect it to do? Give you like 10 million Robux. So now for the next final object. So if we go, so in the studios, this only applies in studios. If you play the game, it does not work. But you've got this button up here called UI. If you click it, all of the UI disappears. So basically, if you're working on something and you don't want your UI on the screen, you can click this and it all disappears. And it goes great. But like, I want it like this. Now I'm going to just get rid of my scrolling frame by setting a visibility. So where it says visible, if I just uncheck that, it goes away. So like so. Well, that's because there's a frame. You've always got to make sure it's the top layer, the layer closest to the screen GUI, because otherwise you'll do the wrong thing. Now, the final bit, the surface GUI. So I'm going to make a new part here, and if we're going to explore, so if we're in Explorer here, I'm going to go to the part and add a surface GUI up here. So now that I've added this, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add text. I'm going to copy the text label I did here in the billboard GUI and paste it in the surface GUI. So now the surface GUI has this text label, the exact same as earlier. So now I'm going to show you some surface GUI stuff. So in the surface GUI you've got all of the same things, but you've got this face, front. Now before you could usually find out what face you have, but now you've got to guess. If you spawned it using how Roblox spawned it, top should be the top. You've got all of these for pixels per studs, and then they're always on top. But if I set this face to top, and then go back, as you can see, right here, it's on top. So you can clearly see it's on top. Depends on the face, depends on where it is, and like everything else, we've done it. An image button might, an image button will work, on this type of block, and anything we've talked about so far will work. So, but I believe is it. Yes, but it is for this video. In the next video, we are going to take some of the information we learned today and add it to my factory tutorial video that should be coming out next week of releasing this video, if I release this on time. So watch out for that, as that's going to be good. So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, as YouTube is saying that 95.0% of my viewers are unsubscribed, and I would really like to get to 50 or 20 more than 20 subscribers by the end of the year. You are all smashing it on the views by getting me at least 2 views, or at least 1 view per day, which is amazing for me on this channel with this lot of subscribers. That is amazing, getting 1 view per day. That means you've got hope on being good. But otherwise, thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and see you next time.